Welcome back the rare and valuable coins today. We're diving deep into the world of silver Washington quarter dollars. But not just any quarters, we're talking about the ones that sold for thousands of dollars at auction. So let's get started first. Up the 1992 Washington quarter dollar is a coin that often goes unnoticed in circulation. But today we are going to take a closer look at a specific example that stands out for a few unique reasons. This one has a large date, a D mint mark, a deep black color shade, and it is, unfortunately, in bad condition. Even though it may not look like much at first glance, it still has a story to tell. Let's start by talking about what this coin is. And where it comes from, the Washington Quarter Series began in 1932 as a way to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The obverse of the coin features a portrait of Washington designed by John Flanagan, while the reverse features a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings. This design remained on the quarter until the late 1990s, when the state quarters program took over in 1999. In 1992, U.S. Mint struck quarters at several locations, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Denver minted coins carry the D mint mark just to the right of Washington's ponytail on the obverse. Most of the 1992 D quarters you find in everyday change are made of copper-nickel-clad metal, which means they are not silver. However, silver versions were produced that year as part of special proof sets for collectors. If your 1992 D quarter happens to be silver, it did not come from regular circulation, but from one of these collector sets. One of the small but interesting details about this coin is the large date variety. This simply means that the numbers of the date 1992 are slightly larger and bolder than the more standard design. This is not an error that adds huge value, but it is still a feature collectors like to note. It can give the coin a slightly different appearance, especially when viewed next to a normal strike. Now, the black color shade on this coin is what catches most people's attention first. This is not a factory feature or a mint error. Instead, it is the result of environmental damage, heavy tarnish, or chemical reaction over time. Coins stored in damp places, exposed to water, buried in the ground, or even exposed to certain cleaning agents can develop this kind of dark tone. While some collectors appreciate naturally toned coins, the uneven and harsh darkening that comes from damage usually reduces the appeal. When we say the coin is in bad condition, we mean that much of the original mint luster is gone. Many of the fine design details are worn down, and the surfaces have been discolored or corroded. In numismatics, condition is everything and heavy. Wear or environmental damage can significantly lower a coin's value. The reality is that a 1992 D Washington quarter in bad condition is extremely common. Millions were minted, and finding one like this is not rare. If it is made from the standard copper-nickel-clad metal, its market value today is just its face value, 25 cents. On the other hand, if it is one of the silver-proof coins, even in bad condition, it will have some value due to its silver content alone. The silver version contains 90% silver and weighs about 6.25 grams. In today's silver market, that makes it worth around $4 to $5 just for the metal, regardless of its condition. To figure out whether your coin is silver or clad, you can check the edge of the coin. A silver quarter will have a solid silver color along the edge, while a clad coin will show a copper-colored core sandwiched between the outer layers. Weighing the coin can also help silver quarters weigh a bit more than clad quarters. Even though this coin in bad condition is not going to make you rich, it still has value as a piece of American history. Every coin has traveled through many hands and witnessed countless small moments in daily life. The fact that this one has survived since 1992, despite being heavily worn and discolored, means it has had quite a journey. In the end, the value of this 1992 large date D mint mark Washington quarter in a black shade and bad condition depends entirely on whether it is silver or clad. If it is clad, you can spend it for a soda. If it is silver, You can sell it for a few dollars based on silver melt value. While this particular example might not be the most valuable coin out there, it can still serve as a reminder to always check your change. You never know when you might come across a rare variety, an error coin, or even a piece made of silver. Coin collecting is not just about finding valuable pieces. It's also about learning the stories behind them. This 1992 quarter might be worn and damaged, but it still connects us to the history of U.S. coinage and the tradition of honoring George Washington on the quarter dollar. For collectors, even coins like this can hold interest, because every coin has a place in the bigger picture of American money. Next up, the 1980 Washington quarter dollar is a coin that many people still come across in circulation today. But this particular one has some features that make it interesting to examine. It is a small date variety, minted in Philadelphia as indicated by the P mint mark, in fine condition with some scratches present. While it might not be a rare treasure worth thousands of dollars, it is still worth understanding its background, composition, and market value in today's coin world. The Washington Quarter Series began in 1932 to tribute to the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by John Flanagan, the obverse features the profile of Washington, while the reverse showcases a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows and olive branches. This design remained unchanged until the state quarters program began in 1999. In 1980, quarters were minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint used the P mint mark on its quarters starting that very year, making 1980 the first year a P appeared on Washington quarter struck there for circulation. Now, about the small date detail, this refers to a subtle difference in the size and style of the numerals in the date. While not officially recognized as a major variety by the U.S. Mint, small date and large date coins are often noticed by collectors. The difference is generally most visible in the shape and thickness of the numbers, particularly the 1 and 9 in 1980. For many collectors, identifying and keeping these varieties can add an extra layer of enjoyment to the hobby, even if the difference in value is minimal. One important thing to note is that despite the silver in your description, the standard 1980 Washington quarter minted for circulation is made of a copper-nickel clad composition, not silver. The only silver quarters from that era are special strikes produced for collectors, mainly in proof form, containing 90% silver. These silver proofs were not intended for circulation and usually come from San Francisco with an S mint mark. If your coin is indeed silver, would be an unusual find for a 1980 Philadelphia quarter and would need to be tested or weighed to confirm. A clad quarter weighs about 5.67 grams, while a 90% silver quarter weighs around 6.25 grams. Your coin is described as being in fine condition, which means it has moderate wear over the high points of the design, but the major details are still clear and visible. Fine condition is right in the middle of the grading scale. It's not pristine, but it's also far from the worst state a coin can be in. The presence of scratches is important to note because while normal circulation wear is expected, deep or noticeable scratches can lower collector appeal and market value. In the coin world, even small imperfections can make a difference, especially when collectors are looking for examples in better shape. So what is a 1980p Washington quarter in fine condition with some scratches worth in today's market? If it is the standard copper-nickel clad version, its value is usually just its face value of 25 cents. Millions upon millions of these coins were minted, and they are still very common in everyday change. However, if the coin turns out to be one of the rare silver strikes or an unusual mint error, its value could be significantly higher. A genuine silver quarter would be worth at least $4 to $5 based on the silver content alone, and potentially more depending on collector demand. For most collectors, A coin like this holds more historical and sentimental value than monetary value. It represents a piece of American history from the early 1980s, a time before state designs took over the quarter, and a year that marked the start of the P-mint mark tradition in Philadelphia coinage, while scratches and moderate wear prevent it from being a high-grade collectible. It still tells a story about its decades of use in commerce, even if you can't sell it for a high price. It's always worth checking your coins carefully. Many rare and valuable coins have been found by people simply paying attention to the small details, whether that's a mint mark, a date variety, or a unique error. This 1980p small date Washington quarter may not make you rich, but it's pre-deserves. May it's pre-deserve. It's pre-deserve and exserve. May it pre. It's pre-made pre-sectus quad, be as av. You said pre-exord, kiweed. Pre-deserved, we are wally made. I can arc, pre-made as. Why realize. Still an interesting piece to keep, especially if you enjoy collecting and learning about American coins. Over time. Next up, the 1988 Washington quarter. Dollar with D-Mint mark was struck at the Denver Mint and is part of the long-running Washington quarter series that began in 1932. This particular coin is described as being in dirty condition with some scratches, which means it has seen plenty of circulation and use over the decades. While the description mentions it as a silver coin, it's important to clarify that quarters produced for circulation in 1988 were made from a copper-nickel-clad composition. It's not silver. The only 90% silver quarters from this era are special. Collector's proof strikes, typically made at the San Francisco Mint with an S mint mark. That means if your 1988D coin is truly silver, it would either be a special minting error or an unusual planchette mix-up, which could make it far more valuable than a standard quarter. The Washington quarter design in 1988 still featured John Flanagan's portrait of George Washington on the obverse, with the inscriptions Liberty above his head and In God We Trust to the left. The date 1988 sits below the bust, with the D-Mint mark positioned just to the right of the ribbon in Washington's hair. The reverse carries the classic heraldic eagle, wings outspread, clutching arrows with olive branches beneath symbolizing both strength and peace. This design was the workhorse of U.S. coinage for decades, until it was replaced by the state quarters program in 1999. By 1988, quarters were made with a copper core clad in a layer of copper-nickel alloy, giving them their silver-like color, without containing any actual silver for circulation strikes. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of quarters that year, making the 1988D a common date in the series. In general, unless a coin from this year has a significant minting error, is a high-grade uncirculated example, or is a silver proof, it will not command a high premium in the current collector's market. Your coin is noted to be in dirty condition with some scratches. This level of wear indicates that it has circulated widely, picking up marks from contact with other coins, pockets, cash registers, and years of handling. Dirt and discoloration are common in coins that have been in circulation for decades. And while they don't necessarily destroy the coin's historical appeal, they do lower its numismatic value compared to cleaner, higher-grade examples. Some collectors prefer not to clean coins, as improper cleaning can cause permanent damage and further reduce value today. If your 1988D Washington quarter is the standard copper-nickel version in dirty, scratched condition, its worth is generally just its face value 25 cents. However, if it truly is a silver coin, you should verify it by weighing it or having it examined by a coin dealer or professional grading service. A genuine 90% silver quarter from 1988, if such an error exists, would be worth at least its melt value. which could be in the range of $4 to $5 based on silver prices, and possibly more if it's a verified mint error. Even if it turns out to be a regular clad quarter, coins like this still have a story to tell. They've traveled through countless hands, possibly across states, and have been part of everyday commerce for decades. While the numismatic premium may be low, it's still a piece of American history worth noting. Some collectors keep circulated coins from specific years and mints as part of a complete set, and others enjoy hunting for varieties, doubled dies, or other small quirks in coins from common years. Next up, the 1990 USA Washington Quarter dollar with a large date and a D Mint mark was produced at the Denver Mint and is part of the long-running Washington Quarter series that began in 1932, while the description calls it a silver coin. It's important to note that quarters minted for circulation in 1990 were made of copper nickel clad. The only 90% silver quarters from that year were special collector-proof issues, struck at the San Francisco Mint with an S mint mark. If your 1990D is indeed struck on a silver planchette, it would be considered an unusual and potentially valuable minting error. The obverse of the coin carries the familiar design by John Flanagan, with a left-facing portrait of George Washington. Above his head is the word Liberty, while the motto "In God We Trust" appears to the left. The date 1990 is displayed at the bottom, and the D Mint mark, signifying the Denver Mint, is found just to the right of the ribbon in Washington's hair. On the reverse, you'll find the heraldic eagle design, wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, representing both American strength and a desire for peace. This classic reverse was used until 1998, when the state quarters program began. Your coin is described as being in uncirculated condition, meaning it has not been used in regular transactions and still holds much of its original mint luster. However, the note of some scratches indicates that despite its uncirculated status, the coin has experienced some handling or storage marks, possibly from contact with other coins or improper storage. While these surface marks may reduce its grade slightly, the coin would still be far more appealing to collectors than a circulated example from the same year. For a standard copper-nickel-clad 1990D quarter in uncirculated condition with minor scratches, the market value typically ranges from $1 to $3, depending on the buyer and exact condition. Collectors often seek coins with sharp details, minimal contact marks, and strong mint luster. However, if the coin is confirmed to be made of silver, either from an off-metal strike or a minting error, it could carry a much higher value. The silver content alone would be worth $4 to $5 at current silver prices. And as a rare era coin, it could sell for anywhere from $50 to several $100s at auction, depending on demand and authentication. To confirm whether your coin is silver, it should be weighed. Standard copper-nickel-clad quarters weigh about 5.67 grams, while silver quarters weigh around 6.25 grams. A professional coin dealer or grading service could verify the composition, assess the grade, and provide an accurate market valuation. Even if the coin turns out to be the regular copper-nickel issue, its uncirculated condition, Denver Mint origin, and the fact that it is over 3 decades old make it a collectible piece, especially for those building complete mint sets from the 1990s. Proper storage in a coin holder or protective case will help preserve its appearance and prevent further scratches. Next up, the 1967 USA Washington Quarter dollar is an interesting piece from a transitional period in U.S. coinage history. Although it is often called silver by some, the reality is that by 1967, circulating Washington quarters were no longer made of 90% silver. The United States Mint removed silver from the quarter after 1964, switching to a copper-nickel-clad composition to reduce costs. This means your 1967 quarter is most likely copper-nickel clad, unless it's a rare mint error struck on a leftover. Silver planchet from 1964, which would make it significantly more valuable in 1967. The mint was working to eliminate coin shortages caused by silver hoarding. To speed up production, no mint marks were used on any coins that year. So your quarter. Having no mint mark is perfectly normal. It was struck at either the Philadelphia or Denver Mint, but without a mint mark. There's no way to tell where it came from. The obverse of the coin shows the familiar John Flanagan portrait of George Washington facing left. Above his head is the word liberty, and to the left, the motto, "In God We Trust." The date 1967 appears at the bottom in a bold, large date style. On the reverse, you'll find the heraldic eagle design. Wings spread proudly, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, symbolizing America's readiness for both defense and peace. You've described your coin as being in fine condition with some scratches. In numismatic grading, fine means moderate wear on the high points of the design, but most of the major details are still visible. The scratches likely come from circulation and handling over its more than 5 decades of life. While these marks lower its potential grade and appeal to high-end collectors, it still holds value as a vintage piece of U.S. coinage. In today's market, a regular copper-nickel 1967 Washington quarter in fine condition generally has a value close to its face value, about 25 cents, although collectors may pay between 50 cents and $1 for a nice example to fill a date slot in their collection. However, if this quarter is found to be one of the rare silver planchet errors, the value could rise dramatically. These error coins can sell for $50 to $300 or more, depending on condition and verification by a grading service. To check for silver content, you can weigh the coin. A copper-nickel clad quarter weighs about 5.67 grams, while a 90% silver quarter weighs around 6.25 grams. Another sign is the edge of the coin. Clad quarters have a visible copper-colored stripe, while silver quarters have a solid silver edge. Even if your 1967 quarter turns out to be the standard clad version, it's still a fascinating part of coinage history. It represents a time when the mint was making big changes in production methods and metal composition. And it's one of the few years in modern U.S. history where no mint marks appeared on any coins. Proper storage in a coin holder can prevent more scratches and preserve its details for years to come.